A lot of us are caught in the rat race, and even if we're feeling good about it and we're being successful, there's a possibility that we might have built the whole thing on a shaky foundation. One of the brightest medical minds in the country, if not the world, is here with us today to show us how to get in touch with our true selves, integrate that enlightenment, and lose the fear of connecting with our relationships. It seems like there's a pill for everything these days, a medicine for every illness and disorder. But there's one thing that medicine can't replace, and that is human connection. And someone who has been a living example of how to do that beautifully is my friend, Dr. Noel C. Gardner. And you have just taken the lead on this connection thing. Like when I was in my hardest time after I lost my dad, you were the one who showed up and got me out of my isolation. Why do you value connection? Hi, Noel.
Well, it's what gives meaning to our lives, right? AI may do wonderful things and solve all kinds of problems and gather all kinds of information very quickly, but AI doesn't replace real relationships. Now, you hear about AI doing therapy, and they have avatars who respond to people. And it's fascinating, but there's no person behind it. And we're finding out that we really do need these human connections. And I don't know how it happens. I mean, you just kind of arrived in my life, and it became a holy moment, a moment of opportunity. And it just happens.
Okay, we're going to talk a lot about connection today. Yeah. The first time I heard your name, I was boothing breaking news at Channel 2 during the Elizabeth Smart case.
Ah, yes.
And you, free thinker, went against the majority who were analyzing Brian David Mitchell and Wanda Barzee. And yes, you had a really differentiating opinion of the other psychiatrist, that his actions were based in beliefs, not mental illness. And that was just mind-blowing. How did that feel to know that you were the only one who was going to say that after that analysis?
I was so clear about it that I didn't feel ambivalent. It wasn't difficult. I think a lot of that issue had to do with experts who really didn't understand the nature of religious belief and its connection or relationship to narcissistic personality. So what we mean by this, the issue of whether someone's competent to stand trial is, do they have a clear, accurate capacity to understand the issues? Now, what gets confusing is that people who have religious belief believe things that seem to be completely opposite to our understanding of reality in the modern world. They'll describe feeling that God has called them. Religious people will, it's a very natural part of it. And religious beliefs, I remember testifying in that case and talking about how religious belief can seem very normal because it's shared by other people. So something like the virgin birth, from a scientific standpoint, it's totally absurd. But it's a standard view shared by millions of people worldwide. So how to distinguish between religious beliefs and psychosis can be a little difficult, especially if it's uniquely individualistic religion. So it's not shared by a lot of other people. So Brian David Mitchell had his own construct of religion. But when you got down inside of it, you found out that he got his ideas the way other people do. He learned them and developed them and imagined certain things. And he saw it as an opportunity to become important. And he used it as a way to control his wife, Wanda. So when we got to trial in the federal case, I remember when the head prosecutor said, he says, do you remember? He said, you can't tell anybody because we're going to pop this one. He said, but you remember in the O.J. Simpson case, what was it? He said, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. And he said, in our situation, a revelation a day keeps Wanda at bay.
Wow.
He used this religious sort of role to dominate and to control other people and to justify a lot of his behaviors, which would be considered both immoral and illegal.
That is so eye-opening because I'm seeing a lot of that in the spiritual communities that have popped up that are not interested in religion, yet have some very similar structures and deep-seated beliefs that may be a little exclusionary, may keep them in behaviors that aren't healthy for them or their family or community. Do you get the sense that spiritual beliefs can be as staunch as religious beliefs?
Absolutely. I think there are three terms or three words that we use: religion, spirituality, and wisdom. And religion is a social construct, so people belong to a particular religion, and it's used often very much like tribe. This is our tribe, and our tribe has the truth, and your tribe doesn't. And it becomes a competition, and it's filled often with lots of ego that says, I'm important, my beliefs are more important, my truth is the ultimate truth, and yours is not. So religion can take on some really dysfunctional aspects. On the other hand, it provides a structure that can be meaningful, that brings morality forward. It can be an important part of life. There are many people who are religious, belong to religions, who are deeply spiritual. But there's a lot of people who belong in religions that aren't very spiritual at all. It's a power trip and a lot of other things. So it's a social club. It's a lot of things. Spirituality often has many, many good things about it that deepen a person's capacity for relationships with themselves and with others. On the other hand, it can be pretty flaky. And there are people who use spirituality not unlike the way people use religion, that is, to advance oneself or to gain advantages or to be important or all those other things that the ego tends to do. But wisdom often is something that only emerges later in life after we've been knocked around a bit. And so wisdom, I think, is built on certain values, and those values are truth and a commitment to truth that is best as we can understand it. It's a commitment to beauty. That is, beauty can suffuse us and give us the capacity for a deeper experience with life and with others. And finally, goodness. People can be committed to truth and committed to beauty and still be very arrogant. I started my life very committed to music and was very involved in music and thought about a career in music.
I didn't know that. You are a polymath. You must be. No. We'll get into all of his background, but music.
I started to do a double major with a major in music in college, and I found people just were picky, trying to find anything that you did poorly at your recital or whatever it was, and it was like no fun. It was miserable. I hated it. So I don't do much music. I listen to it every day, and it enriches my life, and I'm very grateful for it. But it can be filled with ego. And so goodness, we know what goodness is. This is people who really care about other people and about the environment that they live in.
This is what you exemplify. And please bear with me while I talk you up. I'm actually just telling the truth because you trailblazed a new model for mental health care for serving the underserved with an absolutely free clinic, not insurance, not Medicaid, a free clinic called Impact Mental Health. And I got to go down there and see how many people that you serve. So many, actually, that you needed new structures to even handle all of that. But thank you for taking that on, because like you have your own family and you show up for them and you show up for the people in your life. And he has people like me who he mentors and just so many things that you're doing. Why do you prioritize service?
I'm not even completely sure. It just seems to be there and is needed.
Do you feel like you got out of your ego at some point, because you're the most luminous being, like a true enlightened one, and that's not easy to maintain as we're going along our outside of the temple lives.
I can tell you, but part of it is being in a family, because what you find out is that you're a parent and things are messy and you don't know how to be a good parent, and there are ups and downs in that whole process. And you're in a marriage, and marriage is difficult. And I have to credit my wife. She's very good at kind of keeping me grounded.
I could see her doing that. She's so wonderful.
So she's very talented, very gifted.
She also does a lot of service as well.
She does. She does a lot of service. We could not have done the clinic we did without her. And so, I find great joy in this process. But you're nailing the essential point. Let me just say something about ego.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in this world that has moved us towards meditation. I think that the turn towards the East with the wisdom that, some of my great joys have been being exposed to the wisdom from the East. So Thich Nhat Hanh, a Buddhist.
We share him as our teacher.
A wonderful, wonderful teacher.
And service-oriented.
He calls it engaged Buddhism. It's not Buddhism that just retracts into silence, but you constantly go back to a deeper inner true self, and then you work from that into service. And it's a journey inward and it's a journey outward. And so I'm very grateful for that exposure, but it's sometimes gets to the point where you're trying to eliminate the ego. And that's really a mistake, because if you don't have any ego, you have no way to experience yourself or be an observer of your own life. And that's essential.
So ego is more like identity. You want some form of how you're playing this role in the world.
Yeah, ego mediates our experience of reality, but the key to that is it has to be surrendered. So if you read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle,
life.
Yes, wonderful. His last chapter is called Surrender. And so the ego then has to be surrendered, and life gives us lots of opportunity.
Very humbling, this life.
Punches holes in our inflated ego.
And if you learn to be humble, it doesn't cost you anything. Nothing really happens if you just surrender to that. I was so afraid that would mean I was worthless or no one would respect me. But it seems like the more I humbled myself or allowed Spirit to humble me, it just got easier and easier. Now I realize we're all human.
Protecting the ego is a lot of work.
Oh, so much work.
Yeah. And to let that go is a great relief.
So if you stayed in the place when you had your great awakening, if you stayed in that feeling of oneness and bliss, we wouldn't get anything done.
Yes.
Right? But we imbue our actions with that spirit of love and goodness. Yes. Is that right?
Oh, I think so. So, and I come back to Thich Nhat Hanh. He's such a wonderful teacher. And he talks about how through, becoming aware and choosing to breathe and come back to the true self. And he said, now in Vietnam, where he came from, and Martin Luther King Jr. nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize because he had a profound effect on Martin Luther King, which moved Martin Luther King from just focusing on civil rights to civiling on global peace in the Vietnam War. Yeah, it's extraordinary. And of course, they wouldn't award it to him because people on both sides of that conflict couldn't tolerate it. That he was so accepting of the need for love and acceptance in the world. He was just an amazing guy.
His people. Yeah. He went to go and comfort and teach. He went and taught American soldiers, and his own country blacklisted him because of that. But that's really telling that he is one of our teachers, because you and me both believe that there is no part of ourselves or no one in the world that deserves to be abandoned or counted out.
That's right.
All life matters. All parts of us matter.
That's so true.
The anima and the animus.
Yeah, all of those things.
Part of us.
And he said in Vietnam, where he says I came from, he said we have all these Buddhist temples, and they have bells that ring out. And so whenever I hear the bells ringing, that's a bell of mindfulness. And I pause, and I breathe deeply and come back to my true self. In 3 breaths, in and out. And he says, I'm ready. And now I used to try to get a lot done, and I used to drive up 7th East from where I live up to downtown Salt Lake City, and I would try to get through all of the lights on green and sometimes yellow and pushing it around the red.
That's a long road.
And after I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh, I thought, I'm not going to rush through this. This is a bell of mindfulness. So when it turns yellow, I slow down and stop. And it gives me time for 3 deep breaths. And you can do that through all of your life. There's bell of mindfulness.
I'm getting emotional because, first of all, your support of the Dharana method, the meditation program that was channeled through me, was so encouraging. Thank you. But even with all of that foundation, when I went through certain changes in my life, that had a big impact, and didn't really have people who were in the space to support me, you came and you reminded me of what I already knew. And you started so simply. The bell of mindfulness. Just come back, Amanda. Come back here. Use all of these things that might agitate you and drive you further into isolation to come out, to open.
Well, you taught me as well. I remember you said, do you know what the word Amanda means? And I said, I have no idea. And so you were right. I looked it up. It means one who is worthy to be loved. And I thought, everybody should have the name Amanda, because, we all need and want to and are worthy to be loved. We're worthwhile. And can I tell you another story?
I love your stories. Please. It'll give me a moment to get my eyes dry.
I have a dear friend who's an internal medicine doctor, Dr. Mansoor Imam. He's from Iran. His father was a Sufi imam. Oh, wow. And they're wonderful Sufi mystics.
Yes,
and
like Rumi.
He's such a generous, wonderful healer. But he took a job going up to it's considered the most extreme prison in the California prison system, to be an internist, to take care of people.
Wow.
And he told me this story. He said, I said, is it ever kind of frightening to be with all these really violent people and this history and stuff? He said, I don't really feel that. He said, let me tell you a story. He said, the toughest badass in the whole prison was sent to me because he had some kind of medical concern. And he came shackled with handcuffs and ankle cuffs. And the guard just was right all over it. And he said, I started to do my physical exam, and I asked the guard to take him out of his shackles. And the guard said, "Oh, no, we're not allowed to do that." He said, "In order to give him the care that he needs and deserves, I'm going to have him unshackled."
Oh.
And here's this burly guy, tattoos all over his face, all over his body. And Dr. Imam started to do his exam. And then he stopped to look up at him and ask him a question. And here was this tough badass with the tears rolling down his face. And I thought, whoa, isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? So most of us
heals.
Yes, love heals.
There's proof now that when we engage with another and we give them our attention and it's like our affection, you get something in your brain, both of your brains, called limbic resonance, and your limbic system regulates your whole nervous system. You're the psychiatrist. You could be explaining this, but calms you to a different state, and it actually rewires your brain.
Yes.
That human connection. But so often when we see another, we're seeing our own insecurities because of that root of unworthiness.
Yes.
So it takes somebody who has that activated in themselves, that wholeness, or even just a general good regard for another human being to hold that space for us. But it seems like sometimes it's difficult to show up with another when there is social anxiety, insecurity.
Can I just say a little something about attention?
Yes,
I've learned recently. So, I've done a lot of work with neuropsychiatry. The work I did was very heavily medical, neurological. That's how I formally trained. So I came to Utah to be chief of consultation psychiatry at the University of Utah. That's practicing in the medical surgical hospital setting. So patients I was seeing were in the ICUs, the burn unit, transplant patients, all kinds of patients. And it was a teaching service for psychiatric residents, family practice residents, medical students. I loved it, but it was, I've done a lot of thinking about this. And as a field, even in neuropsychology, we've tended to think of attention as being one of the cognitive functions of the brain. But it's actually something much more than that.
Really?
And it precedes everything else in brain activity. So generally, we start with what we call perception. Perception is data input into the brain. It can be exteroception, that is data about information from the outside world. We take that in through our senses, taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound. And interoception, this inner experience of ourself as a body physically, and our inner emotional experience, which includes things like intuition and things like imagination that seems to come up from somewhere. Yeah. So there's perception is data input. That input is then processed. Cognition is how we process it in one aspects, and cognition is made up of memory, language, visual, spatial, and constructional ability. Executive function, how we solve all kinds of problems, including math and other things. And finally, insight and judgment. Insight is to be able to see oneself accurately in one's social and contextual environment.
Well, that is, if everyone had that,
we would be fine.
I mean, that's one of the things I still am working on.
That sounds very woke. You can be awake and be aware of your environment. And then judgment, being able to make wise judgments based on your understanding, insight. That's cognition.
Ooh.
The other side is emotion. Emotion is how the brain tags what is individually important. That is, we remember things that are emotionally powerful. And the reason we do is they tell us a lot about our own unique experience and its importance. We feel emotional about the things that are most important to us.
Like meaningful?
That are meaningful,
But not in a
It's not
intellectual way.
cognition is over here.
Good.
Yeah, cognition does that abstract
Wow.
identification of what things are, and it's an important part, but the emotions are important. And together, cognition and emotion create motivation.
Cognition and emotion create motivation.
So we sometimes think of cognition as how we direct that, but the emotion is sort of the engine that drives that process, and we need both to motivate us, that then leads to behavior. Now we talk about behavioral health. Well, there's a lot underneath the surface before it becomes behavior, and so we need to have that underneath. But interestingly, attention precedes perception. And
what?
that is, we now know for certain, I think that without any question, that we have a certain degree of free will. That is, we can choose what we attend to.
We can choose what we attend to.
And love is what happens when we fully attend to the experience of another person. So we're not off somewhere else.
Being fully present.
Fully present.
And attending to that person. Oh my goodness. And that's who we really are. We are that love and presence.
Yes.
And when we're with someone else, it's something that can naturally overflow out of us. But we don't have time for that, Noel.
Ooh, this has just been so fun.
For presence. No, that's pretty groundbreaking, because Dharana method was the meditation that encouraged a single point of focus. And putting it in your framework, it's choosing the point of focus, and it's getting you used to choosing a better focus. Like what you said with the holy moments.
Yeah.
Is this an agitating phone call, or is this a bell of mindfulness or a holy moment?
And so what Thich Nhat Hanh says, when the phone rings, he says you don't have to answer it on the first or even the second ring. Take this as a bell of mindfulness so you can breathe deeply. And do that for the first 3 or 4 rings, and then pick up, and you'll be able to be fully present to whoever's on the other end of the line.
That's good for someone who is still working on being calm when I hear my phone ring, because I've dealt with a lot of stress over the past 5 years, and my body is still getting used to being safe. And so that's something that I will definitely put into practice today, just to take some deep breaths, because we change our whole physiology when we have,
Absolutely.
3 deep breaths?
Yeah. And then you can add a little bit of a mantra to the breathing. So when you breathe in, you can say, this is what comes to me. When I'm breathing in, I'd say, come, sweet spirit.
Come, sweet spirit.
And when I breathe out, I like to say, flow through me.
Flow through me.
3 breaths. Come, sweet spirit. Flow through me. And it feels like I'm reconnecting with something beyond me, greater than myself, that's beyond my capacity, but that I get to be part of that process.
Wait, thank you so much, because that higher connection that was just experienced by breathing, and I hope you did that too, it ties you into the great, like when you do the here as far as you can meditation, you realize that your consciousness is not in your body. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so doing that breathing also allows me to feel that way. And with the spiritual connection, Dr. Lisa Miller's book, I don't remember what it's called, but she said that people who cultivate a spiritual connection activate the part of their brain responsible for feelings of bonding, meaning, and being held. And I feel on my shamanic warrior path journey, where I was isolating myself in the desert and learning, and I had some mentors still, but I was in a different phase of my spiritual evolution. I was comforted by spirit, and that's why I was able to do that. But without that spiritual connection, that would have been very lonely and isolating. But I recommend, if anybody does not have a partner, which I haven't had for a while. So my spiritual connection is very dear to me.
Yeah.
But what is the next step after that? How does one go from, okay, I'm healing, I'm connecting with myself. The step between that and a social interaction can be daunting. Do you have recommendations for that?
I think it becomes unique to the individual in the sense that I think a lot of times we bring a lot of neediness to relationship. We're looking for the love we don't feel like we got adequately as children. And so we put the face of our neediness on other people. And that's a heavy burden to put on people.
And that's probably both in friendships, work relationships, romantic relationships.
Yes.
So is that projecting?
Yes, there's a projection quality. And it comes back again to this experience. I like to think of it, I call them the 3 Ps, that I like to think of the persons or a person that has been most impactful in helping me to be the person I hope and long to be. And you've heard me talk about my dear Papa
Your
Will.
Papa Will.
Yeah.
A great deal like how you have been to me.
And I used to say, if only I could be for someone else what my dear Papa Will was for me.
No, you have.
Yeah. And so when you feel alone, to be able to identify a time when somebody was truly there, that was somebody who he paid attention to me at a time my world was just shattered. And I would go in and I'd pour out my rage at the universe. I would wish I could be dead every day of my life at that period.
I respect you so much for
too afraid to do it.
For going to him and being vulnerable.
But he came to me out of nowhere. I was a medical student just dying inside, and I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and he says, I just have this sense that you and me, we need to talk.
Oh.
Now, where did he get that? Where did he get that?
Where did you get that? No.
So, but there's something in the universe calls us to be available,
And I can tell you that is something that is now impressed upon me of, it's not something I do for money. You can't do that for money.
No, you can't.
It's so convoluted because, yes, we healers deserve to be paid, but there is this human thing that we do, that you do, that Papa Will, which is like looking after someone, showing up.
With our attention.
With our attention, that's
and
right.
And somebody feels seen.
Needing nothing.
They feel seen. They feel heard. They feel valued.
Oh, I'm
our
gonna
attention. Cry.
Yeah. On the last podcast, I told the story about connecting with the man who was sitting on the sidewalk and probably hadn't been connected with in a while. But we came to the conclusion that there is a real problem going on, and it's driving people absolutely insane, because I feel my belief is that we're meant to touch. We're meant to be in relationships. We're meant to hug our children and touch them. I feel that. And I feel that we go a little insane when we don't have that. But there's been things in our social behaviors, traumas, creating more trauma, abuse, that have made things convoluted. And I have experienced that, where I do show up with my presence and there have been inappropriate behaviors, because I feel like some people experience that being seen and maybe go into like, oh, this is romantic love. Like that's the only thing they can comprehend, because they don't know what love is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, there's people, there's places. So in my mind, I have certain places, memories that ground me. I have a place, I grew up in the western slope of Colorado, and I have memories of places hiking in the mountains, which were transcendent experiences as a child that just were wonderful. And I'll go back in my mind to that place in my mind, and it's very healing. I have more recent places. One of them is on my home's back patio where I look up and see Mount Olympus.
Yes.
And that's in the morning, that's where I go. I have my morning coffee and have my space of meditation and beauty. And I love that space. It's healing for me. But the last P is presence.
So
and
it was
people, places,
and presence.
And what happens in meditation when you surrender to something that's greater. And the empty space, the quiet space at the center of our being, that still point, enlarges and is filled with a sense of presence. And you feel connected to that which is greater than yourself. Now, what that is and how it works is way above my pay grade. But I can tell you, I experience it. Now, sometimes I get so busy or so driven by my own goals that I lose touch with that.
Yes.
And Thich Nhat Hanh comes back and says, you need to have a bell of mindfulness. Come, sweet spirit, flow through me. And then the presence is there, and we need to choose it. We need to attend to it.
We need to choose to attend to that.
Yes.
And that naturally makes connecting easier. I've noticed, because when you show up a certain way in a certain state of being where you know who your true self is, you don't have that neediness of someone else.
Exactly.
And they might still feel a little awkward because they might project on you and think they have to be a certain way. But with that limbic resonance, you can vibrate together until it settles. So we shouldn't be scared of one another, especially if we're barefoot in the grass doing a walking meditation together.
There you go.
Or meeting for a coffee.
Yeah.
We do deserve that. And it seems like with the popularity of psychedelics, people are coming into a greater sense of unity, like the mycelium are a network, and teach them a lot in there. And this connection to the earth, that the earth is part of us. And, just starting to see you and I as not that different.
Oh, exactly.
And I would love to see, and you're the one who really has spoken a lot about this. I would love to see that translate into real communities, real community building. Because some of us are out here like, I've got the crock pot, I've got the place. Where is everybody?
Yeah.
Do you need giveaways? What do you need?
Yeah. Psychedelics, it offers a real opportunity. But if it's seen only as a treatment for serious PTSD, it may be very helpful in that space. Or for serious depression, it then ends up in the medical industrial complex where it has to go through all this FDA trial. And that teaches us a lot, but it restricts us to very few people who would ever get it, because by the time they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get FDA approval, then it'll take a lot of insurance. It's going to be very expensive. And it's really focused just on symptom reduction.
Correct.
And psychedelics do so much more than just symptom reduction. If it's done with proper set and setting,
right,
preparation that helps it be that kind of encounter with the true self and with presence.
What a beautiful intention, intending that it is an encounter with your true self, presence, and community.
Yes.
That is an incredible intention for a ceremony.
Yes.
Brilliant. And we were talking the other day, and you said that it's also important to know that it's not always pleasant, these experiences.
So about 2/3 of the experiences, people find it as being beautiful and wonderful. And people say, I feel connected to nature and I had an experience with the divine, and that's all wonderful. But about 1/3 of them are pretty rough and pretty harsh. Now, that's easy to see that as a side effect and report that as a side effect in a medical clinical trial. But suffering is one of the most important experiences that we can have.
Oh, tell me about this.
We try to avoid it, but suffering is a marvelous teacher if we can understand how to learn from it.
This is not the common thesis right now in spirituality. It's like spiritual bypass those feelings and just create and it's helpful to focus on joy, but also we can hold both. So tell me how suffering is a teacher.
So I don't usually think I brought a book. Just somehow I had this impression that I needed to bring this book, and this was a life changer for me.
Really?
Yes. This book is called The Way of Passion, a celebration of Rumi by Andrew Harvey.
Oh my goodness.
And he starts out, and I hope it's okay for me to read just a bit. But he says, I've come to understand that every complete life has 4 essential stages. Like any schema, this one has limitations, but it's helpful. The first stage is childhood, where each of us has an experience of clear ecstasy, a sustained, often luminous, and sometimes directly disturbing experience of union with reality. I believe if we all rediscovered our childhood, we would be aware of moments of divine grace, moments when we were aware of being the substratum of the universe, and of the universe being a magical field for our delights and our energies. But childhood is also the source of wounds, of humiliation, of abandonment, the source of our first terrors. And around those wounds, terrors, and abandonment, and around the conventions of our culture and the expectation of our parents and of our world, stage 2 arises. Stage 2 can be thought of as the creation of the false self, the creation of the unreal self, the self that identifies itself with biography, with duties and conventions, with the desire to succeed, and with the hunger to dominate experience and dominate the world. This false self is invariably erected around the wounds of childhood as a kind of scaffold to protect them, and is also a response to the conventions of the world, to the expectation of everyone around us. So it is a hybrid, rickety, jittery, unsatisfactory structure, which ignorance of any alternative keeps us wanting to prolong. He goes on to say, the tragedy is if you think you're happy in stage 2. If you make money and become famous, and it's a tragedy. The tragedy of our culture.
It's built on the false self.
It's built on the false self. The tragedy of our culture is that it is a stage 2 culture designed to keep people trapped there and designed to keep them exactly at the pitch of panic and desperation at which they will go on fulfilling all the false needs of the false self. They see other people as fulfilling those needs, and then they exploit a relationship. And then he says, what happens then to take somebody from stage 2 into stage 3? Often a breakdown occurs. And he says, if you're lucky, that breakdown will happen early because the pain of childhood or the painful contrast between your inner self and the outer world becomes so great that you will be haunted by fears of suicide or driven to really look at all the facts of your life. He said, so my best wish for you is to have your breakdown when you're young. It is best, I think, to squeeze it into the last days of your 20s. Oh. And I think but what he says is you don't find out that you really need a deeper level if you've never suffered. And once you've suffered, my dear Papa Will used to say to me after I started to begin to heal and discover more of my true self, he would say to me, he said, just remember, your pain is your gift. It will be the bridge that connects you to the suffering in the lives of your patients. And so every day we need to be aware not only of beauty, but we have to every day be aware of suffering, both our own and that of others. And the more your ego is relinquished, the more it's just natural.
It's just natural
to experience the suffering of other people as something important that you want to be able to bridge across with your awareness of your own pain and your own. It's the key.
And it's not like we have to do much. We will want to be present for people.
Yeah, it's our great joy.
It's what we're built for.
That's exactly right. So there it is.
Well, I'm very excited. We've talked about, things I can do in my community with fostering that connection. And I believe you're starting a movement. We're just going to,
I don't know that it's starting.
We're going to start it right now called Skip the Small Talk.
That's right.
Hashtag skip the small talk.
Yeah, get right to the essence of what it is to be fully alive.
The P's are a great place to start. Who is an important person in your life? What are your favorite places?
Yes.
So, but lots of...
And as you become aware, then more and more persons and places become important, and you become aware of presence on a regular, frequently throughout a day. The Old Testament, the Jewish tradition is once a week you have the holy Shabbat, the Sabbath. But I can't wait a whole week. I've got to have them all the way through my day, little tiny mini Sabbaths. Moments of bells of awareness, of bells of mindfulness that bring me back, and I forget it, but then I'm called back again. And that's a way to live. And they all become holy moments.
Does it feel good? Is that why you keep being drawn? Like, does it start to feel good instead of like, I have to go do that?
Oh, yeah. In fact, you can't live without it. It's just, it keeps you. And it means when you're in conflict or in a time of pain, that you have a way through. Because we all have times when life doesn't work out and we feel disappointed, and it's important at those times to be able to come back to yourself, to your true self.
And we were saying that, suffering cracks open that false self.
Yes.
It might throw you through a loop. So like I did the shamanic warrior thing. I have resources there and meditation. You laid out this beautiful plan when you visited me of the Wild Five. And just your routine is a beautiful way to integrate that new experience.
Yes.
So you said your meditation starts, your next day starts the night before.
Yeah. So the best way, and I don't always do this, I get pulled off track, but to do mindful meditation as a preparation for sleep. And the Wild Five has mindfulness every day. It has good quality sleep every day. It has exercise every day. It has good nutrition every day. And it has social connection.
That's one of the five.
That's one of the five.
Overall well-being and balance.
Yes, for physical and mental well-being. And it's been proven with clinical research that's fabulous. So mindfulness prepares for deep, restful sleep, which happens. And then I get up in the morning and I make the coffee and I have some coffee and I have time for beauty and more mindfulness.
And you love music. So
I love music. It makes it easy.
And Mount Olympus.
And then I exercise. I have a set of weights and stuff in my basement of my house. And I do about 20, 30 minutes of rigorous physical exercise. And then I eat a good breakfast. And I try to have good nutrition. It's not always perfect by any stretch. And then the rest of the day is all social connection. And it's so this was a moment of opportunity to connect with you, but maybe to connect to a whole world of people who in their world will find it meaningful. And those then are holy moments throughout the day.
Oh, about how long does it take to get into that groove where, okay, this is what I do now? Does our brain commit that to like a muscle memory where it starts to feel automatic?
I'm not sure I ever get to a groove, but I'm reminded frequently. And if I don't start the night before, I can tell I'm off because, it's pretty easy to get caught up scrolling something on my phone at night before I go to sleep. Yeah. And then I get really pissed off at something, because there's all this stuff. And so getting it and sleeping well. And then for me, what happens is I wake up in the morning and it's a time of intuition in which I'm impressed that certain things are important and they become my awareness list.
Oh.
And then then I exercise, and that's time for me to think. I often listen to something while I'm exercising that's enriches me.
But enriching, not like brain rot stuff. It's
No.
enriching.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I think this short form content
Yeah.
can be a little bit counterproductive.
And I keep saying, holy moments, but there's a marvelous book called Holy Moments. And what he says, a holy moment is any moment, any time in which you set aside personal preference and you set aside self-interest and you make yourself available to someone and seek to be fully present to them. That becomes a holy moment. So sitting here with you today has been a holy moment.
Oh, and a holy moment for me too.
Yes.
Thank you. And that is the message I believe we deserve to hear, that not only is it something that the world needs, connection, but something that makes us feel good too.
It certainly does.
Thank you so much for joining me, my friend. And thank you for everything and how you've shown up for me and our community and the world. You're a world-renowned psychiatrist. Thank you for your work, and it shows in the beautiful family and friendships you have.
Thank you, Amanda. Worthy one.
Oh, thank you. Finally feeling that sense of wholeness. Thank you so much for watching. And just remember, there is no part of you that doesn't deserve love. You're an Amanda too. Very worthy. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.